We begin this broadcast with some breaking news. We'll just head straight to Congress in the United States, where it has been announced that McCarthy has won the Speaker's seat or the Speaker's position. Let's just listen into the Congress right now.
Present.
Well, despite Kevin McCarthy and his team almost believing that they secured the vote for the Speaker post, the Republican congressman faced his 14th defeat. That's 14th defeat in the vote in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Republicans wanted the House to adjourn until Monday, but that was put into a vote. And then a 15th round of ballot was held, and now it seems like the USA has a new speaker. Well, the U.S. House was currently voting for the 15th round to elect the Speaker. This is now the longest such congressional stalemate in more than 150 years, where McCarthy failed to garner enough votes to be the Speaker of the U.S. House. Even though McCarthy was optimistic of a win, he was able to secure only 216 votes in the 14th round. During the 14th vote, McCarthy could be seen having a tense exchange with Matt Gaetz in the House. He had hoped that Matt Gaetz would support him, but Gaetz voted present. McCarthy has been trying without success so far to gain the support of the holdout Republicans. Earlier on Friday, 15 of the 20 Republican holdouts changed their vote to back McCarthy. McCarthy was able to persuade 14 Republican holdouts to cast their vote for him. What you see on your screens are scenes from the House just a short while back, and as you can see, some of the Republicans are congratulating McCarthy. We still want to confirm if he is at all being chosen the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. Early on Friday, 15 of the 20 Republican holdouts changed their vote to back McCarthy. McCarthy was able to persuade 14 Republican holdouts to cast their vote for him. A 15th rebel followed suit during the 13th ballot, but the California congressman was still 3 votes short of the 217 he needed to take the prized gavel.
The reading clerk will now members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Rosendale.
The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the State of New York has received 212. With 6 recorded as present. Therefore, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the State of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives. The clerk appoints the following committee to escort the Speaker-elect to the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Johnson. The gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. McClain. The gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Delbini. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse. The gentlewoman from Oklahoma, Mrs. Bice. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Escobar. The gentlewoman from Indiana, Mrs. Houching. The gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Underwood. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Phillips. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry.
If you're just joining us live, this is breaking news, and Republican Kevin McCarthy has finally been elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives on the 15th round of ballot. Again, Republican Kevin McCarthy has finally been elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives on the 15th round, and the clerk is now announcing who will take the new Speaker of the United States to the chamber. And as you can see, he soared up victory after key Republican rebels such as Matt Gaetz did not vote against him in the 14th ballot. The Speaker of the House nearly went or adjourned before the members started voting in the 15th round. And in the 15th round, McCarthy scored 217 votes, and now it has been confirmed that he has been elected as a Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. And for more on this, we're now being joined by Stephen Golub from California. He's an author and political analyst. Stephen, welcome to WION. What do you make of this whole stalemate? Now we have a new Speaker of the United States. What do you make of this whole saga?
For better or worse, you ain't seen nothing yet. The drama is just going to begin. What the drama to date reflects is that Kevin McCarthy is going to be one of, if not the weakest speakers in our country's history, because his margin is so small and because he had to, in a sense, sell his soul to these very far-right Republicans, about 20 of them that are part of the Republican majority in the House. And it can have some really severe repercussions. Don't be shocked if there's a move to try to impeach President Biden, or at least some of his cabinet secretaries, for pretty bogus reasons. Don't be shocked if there isn't any agreement reached on the U.S. budget, and or that the disagreements on it may go on for weeks or months. And most meaningfully for India, don't be shocked if these far right Republicans twist McCarthy's arm to, in effect, try to force the U.S. into a default on its debt obligations, which would hit our economy and the world economy very, very hard, be very, very damaging.
Stephen, what do you think was distracting the members from voting for McCarthy?
It was all about power. It was all about those 20-odd members trying to show that they could make him give concessions, that they could assert themselves. It really wasn't about policy. Many members of the Republican Party are very far right to begin with, but this was about those 20 or so members trying to show McCarthy, you'd better give in to us or you're just not going to be Speaker. And they ended up winning.
Stephen, the stalemate meant that some of the key functions of the House, like forming committees and swearing in new members, were on hold. Do you think McCarthy will handle this in trays?
Well, now that things are rolling, they'll probably set up shop, in a sense, pretty quickly. But when we talk about setting up committees, and committees within the U.S. House and the Senate, for that matter, are very powerful in deciding on legislation, he's going to appoint, as part of this deal, some of the most right-wing members of the House to offices, to chair committees, such as like our Judiciary Committee, which, among other things, could begin to move to impeach President Biden or other U.S. officials.
Stephen, McCarthy becomes the third most powerful person in the United States. Do you think he's going to work with President Joe Biden in his remaining term in office?
In very few ways, because a lot of the impetus within the Republican Party, this is not the Republican Party that we might have seen before President Trump, which was strong on national security, strong on trying to keep the budget under control to some extent, and matters like that. This is a Republican Party that's mainly driven not by policy matters, but by political success. Not that politics hasn't always played a part in U.S. policy, but by trying to divide the country, making people feel alienated or angry about minorities, about gay and lesbians, about immigrants, about all sorts of folks, and they will continue to try to gear up that bitterness on the part of their supporters, rather than trying to compromise. And the fact that McCarthy has given in to the most radical wing of his party in order to secure the speakership is a reflection of that. It's also a reflection, by the way, that he may not be Speaker necessarily for that long. He could end up being forced out a month or a year from now if just a handful of Republicans in the House decide they don't want him anymore.
Stephen, many will ask, what happens now that the United States has a new Speaker? What should be his first job?
Well, what should is different from what will be the case. What should be his first job is to explore with the Senate and President Biden what areas they can agree on or compromise on to move the country forward in terms of national security, such as Afghanistan, our economy, social services, dealing with our border, where we have many, many immigrants or undocumented or illegal immigrants coming in, all sorts of health challenges in terms of our healthcare system. That's what he should be doing. That's not what he's going to be doing, though. It's really going to be, as I indicated, much more going on the attack to try to undermine President Biden in whatever way he can to block the legislation and maybe even the budget from going through.
Finally, and very quickly, how do you compare McCarthy with outgoing Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, great question. Night and day. Nancy Pelosi was a strong and very savvy, very sharp speaker, regardless of how you may feel about her policies or politics. McCarthy will be a very weak speaker, and I might add, unfortunately, he's not going to be the brightest bulb in the ceiling. He's not the brightest guy. I won't beat around the bush. He's not the brightest guy. Unlike his counterpart, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, who's a very savvy politician, McCarthy is not. So in terms of just sheer political savvy and intelligence and strength as a speaker, he's no comparison to Nancy Pelosi at all.
All right. I have been talking to Stephen Golub from California. He's an author and political analyst. And if you're just joining us, the United States has a new speaker. Stephen, thank you very much for talking to WION today.
Thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.